Dummy Switch Pod. The boys are back.
Yes,
How are you, Chris?
sir. Yes, sir. Quarters. Had better weekends, but I'm good. I'm
I'm
good.
sure.
How
I'm
you doing?
sure.
But we'll talk about that. But I'm good. I'm good. How's it going your side there, man?
Good myself. Good myself. Also had better weeks from a scoreline perspective. But the Dan Carters of podcasting, we're here to give
Uh-huh.
you our opinions, our takes, and just
Yeah.
talk some rugby. Feel free to do so yourself. Give us your comments. Give us your opinions. Church
Mm.
announcements. Obviously, you can find us here: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and yeah, let's get into things. Before we start with the games, news of the week, Edel van der Merwe, it's not an April Fool's joke.
Confirmed.
He was confirmed as
Confirmed.
not re-signing with the Lions and signing with the Rock Nation KZN
Shucks.
Sharks, not the Sale Sharks, which was earlier reported. So that one's all
Yeah.
wrapped up, and I mean, I guess what that means is that you're gonna see less of Hooker on the wing. It's going to
Mm.
cause a bit more congestion in the middle in terms of the midfield pairing, and you're going to
Yeah.
see less of Penke.
Yeah, I think so, definitely. And I think really like you said, a congestion in the middle, but it's really, I think you have to see it as almost them gearing up to, build that solid depth, I guess, for the next season, to try and really, at any stage, whoever's playing, especially in the middle, can still deliver, but yeah, we'll talk about the shocks, quarters. We'll talk about the
Before,
shocks. All
just
right,
before we
it's a
move
good
on from that,
signing.
let me just say, like, what I think is going to happen. Is not staying. Is going to land up
Mm,
leaving, and some of the juniors around there, they're also going to leave, and they're going to come to the Lions. So I'm not too disappointed about it, but I can definitely see a departure in there. But I mean, even
yeah,
Fenter, the likes, I don't see him staying on.
yeah,
So
he isn't.
there'll be some moves around there. But let's start with Ulster versus the Stormers Friday night game.
Mm,
Yo, to try and think back to this game. But I think Ruiz, it was the best game I've seen from him since he's come back. He
yeah,
was as influential. Those games where he was having that big impact, those big runs through the
yeah.
middle, those big carries, those
You
big
saw
meter
that first
stats.
try.
Yeah. So for me, it's the first time that we're seeing that since his injury, since he's come back. And for me, it
Mm,
was with Sasha at 10. This is what we would have liked to see before the Bok call up. This should have
yeah,
been the precursor to a box selection that we were saying, like, how can you pick a guy that doesn't start regularly at 10, doesn't put out the performances?
yeah,
But when you see this performance of him at 10 at club level, you're like, this is why you should be selected for the box at 10.
yeah,
So it was, I mean,
yeah.
we know he got, fast track to the top, but now we're seeing the club level form where although he lost his head and it did cost them a lot, but in terms of an
Mm,
overall performance, there was a lot of control, a lot of smarts in terms of kicking, not where he lost his head there, but other areas of the game, I won't lie, I was impressed by him.
yeah, look, definitely, and yes, you're seeing what made him a Bok, and now he's just, yeah, coming back from injury. He's looking better and better. I think overall, even just him losing his head, that looking at this game, that's what partly contributed to the Stormers sort of, blowing that 17-point lead, and finding themselves, at the end of the day, 4 points short. He showed control, yes. You want that from your 10. He's been showing, I think, since he's been back that he is that guy, and he wants to be that guy for the Stormers,
Yeah.
and that decision making, yeah, you look at those drop goals, it's those kind of moments, those kind of points that, away from home especially, they keep you in the hunt. But it's just, the discipline at the end of the day.
Yeah.
I think it's one of those things that even from a personal perspective, Sasha will want to work on, and do better. But you can understand as well at the same time, when you look at it and you rewatch it and you can sort of understand in
Nah,
his mindset,
mm-mm.
the panic,
No,
that
no, no, no,
no,
no, no.
no, I'm
You
talking
have
about
to.
from
Okay, I can understand the panic. I can understand the panic, yes.
yeah,
But when you look at it and you kind of see and you try and see like what would he have seen? He would have seen
yeah,
at least seen one more person.
mm,
And in that
mm,
situation, I think it's better just to try and let things play out.
yeah,
If you want to infringe, you can infringe when you catch up to the ball and you can kill the ball there.
yeah,
If you
yeah,
understand
but
what I'm
not
saying,
before,
like you could have let it like develop, and then if you want to give away that cynical, do that thing and give away
yeah.
and prevent the try, then rather do it there and just let it play out a bit more.
And that's why I say, like, the panic, I think
Yeah,
just his mindset, the moment that kick went and he turned, I think he already knew that he was beat for pace,
yeah,
and I think that's what really as well contributed to that decision, from his part. And yeah, I fully agree with you. Let it play out, but that'll come with experience. We don't expect him to make those sort of mistakes again. They'll make
yeah,
those sort of decisions again. But then overall, the overall game, the Stormers were playing well. If you look at it, you just they really were. Especially when they racked up that 17-point lead. But even when they were behind, just for them, it really looked like they could, pull it out the fire. They,
mm,
but it was just too late for them, and it was just a bridge too far because they put themselves in that position, and I think that's what will frustrate them the most, is that they are looking like they sort of finding that vibe again that they've had,
yeah.
but it's games like this where, they should have really won, and
They should have won. And
yeah,
I don't like the narrative that's now coming like after the fact from the fan base where it's like 7 out of 10 points on tour, we can be happy
nah,
with that.
they should have
No,
won that game.
yes, you shouldn't be happy with that.
Mm,
Sometimes you need to be greedy. Sometimes you
yeah,
need to want it all. Sometimes you should have had it all. You look at
yeah,
that leader they had, like you said, they were playing well, but the issue that they were having was they were putting pressure on Ulster, especially early, but they were
mm,
infringing with that pressure. So you're
mm,
closing guys down, but you're offsides.
yeah,
So they were playing in the right areas. They're doing all of the things. It's just that in that pressure, they weren't patient
mm,
enough. Then they're
mm,
infringing, and then you're going penalty, it pushes you back. Penalty, it pushes you back. Penalty, it pushes you
yeah,
back. And then you'll end up conceding points. So for me, I wouldn't be happy with
yeah.
7 out of 10 points. But then again, we know the Stormers fan base is delusional, so they will always try and they will always
They'll
try and
justify. They'll justify it. But the fact of the matter is that because that 17-point gap is too big to ignore the fact that,
yeah,
they should have won. And I'll go back to saying that, like, even when Ulster were ahead, even when Ulster, were putting pressure on the Stormers, you always felt that, yeah, they can make this happen. But like you say,
yeah,
they were infringing themselves, and you can't be happy with that, because that is an opportunity. You had it in your hands, and then you let it go, and yeah,
mm,
really, that's what it is, for them, frustrating. But yeah, look, hopefully they can, quickly rectify that, because they do have the ability to do that. I think they've got the players,
yeah,
to and they can sort of focus in, because it's the last few games now, and they in a chance, like they've been saying, the phrase now is what raise to 8 or whatever it is, so
yeah.
um yeah, but they'll be I completely agree with you. You can't be happy with that, because they could have taken a full house.
Yeah, then I mean, just to highlight in that game, obviously Willemse, that penalty that he gave away, and then
Yeah,
Fouchier, the red card, which was also
look,
kind of
I
unfortunate
don't
when
think that
people are
was a red
talking about
card, to
going low.
be. I don't
Yeah,
think it was a red card, in my opinion. Yes, there was directed contact, but for me, there was a lot of mitigation there. At least a
yeah,
yellow, if because the rules say you can't hit, the thing on the player on the head. But then they also say there's rugby collision. So when you look at it and you look at it again, the more you
Yeah,
look at it, the more it looks like a rugby collision because there was a secondary tackler involved. The guy's on his knee, the guy's falling down. That contact happens at a low point. It's not necessarily, so it was a tough one, and that also didn't help, as well. Yes, it goes against you. You're away from home, and that's where you look at things like your own infringements, your own discipline, and yeah,
yeah.
reiterating what we said, because if you shouldn't be happy with that, especially at this time of the season where every point counts.
Yeah, I think I saw Veli Engelbrecht is actually, I think he's gone back to the Pumas now. That's a bit interesting for a guy that was actually playing in a game
It's
there.
starting
And
to
then you've
look
got,
good for them.
yeah, then you've got obviously the rumors of Lobok taking a sabbatical, kind of like Aronson going to Japan. So just thinking long term, Sasha in that 10 jersey, it looks like could be seeing a bit
Yeah.
more of it. So it's just something to keep an eye on.
Mhm.
Bulls versus Zebra. I think the Bulls, it was just stop nonsense. They weren't gonna have the same thing
Yeah.
that Zebre did to the
To,
Sharks. They weren't gonna be
yeah.
caught off guard. They weren't gonna
Yeah.
be you can't trick us. You can't fool us,
Yeah.
you know. So I think it was a good performance in that they kind of shut down things for the most
Basics.
part. They shut down things for the most
Basics.
part. And by the end of the first half, Zebra were playing for bonus points and Bulls just had control of the game. And why they had control of the game, there was some good kicking. I think three tries of of the first four were from set piece, and I think they were
Mm.
all from like lineouts. Like one was a
Strike plays.
maul,
Yeah.
strike plays, putting Stravino Jacobs in. That was nice from Johannes. I like that they kept Johannes
I
there at 10.
liked. Yeah, I like that as well.
Yeah, and it's like
Mm.
obviously Zebra tried. They tried to be tricky. They tried to do those things, but the quality of players, this is what you should have seen from the Sharks, where it's like the quality of
Yeah.
players is just too good. They're too physical. They're too rough. They're just. You saw Van Staden came on and he's doing things where he now looks like he's playing against a junior age group.
Yeah. Yeah. And but look, Zebra will always, because they that team, they're always gonna give the ball air. They're always gonna, play attacking rugby. So they got some pay for it because that's what they do.
Yeah,
But the Bulls, it was a clear plan. Solid set piece. Let's dominate the collisions and let's make sure we D up. Yeah, and try and limit broken field play. And they denied Zebra a lot of that, for the most part. But whenever they did get those chances, it showed. But like I say, basics. The Bulls, they had that plan. They knew what they wanted to do.
yeah,
They did it. There's clarity in everybody's roles right now. Guys. There's guys that are coming back. Kiers are coming back, like you say, from starting. He's. I think the past 2 weeks, he's just all of a sudden he's just caught a fire, where he's looking good coming off the bench, doing the
yeah,
job. And yeah, it was. You would have been surprised if the Bulls lost this one, to be honest,
yeah,
or if they actually did badly, in terms of the execution. I just think they executed their plan uh, better, and like I say, there's clarity in what they want to do, and how they go about things, and
yeah,
yeah, even though it was Zebra, at the same time, let's also contextualize things, but you have to do your basics, and they did it on the day.
yeah. The only frustrating thing here, a lot of drop passes, especially in the first half. It wasn't great to watch. Zach Berger, that cheeky try of his that he got some scrum half play there. But I mean, even him, I
Mm.
wasn't, to be honest, I wasn't too impressed with, you get the opportunity and Paul de Vet is coming, so I'm sure he's also going to be another guy on the way out.
Yeah, and there's nothing. There was nothing like wow from like absolutely brilliant individual. It was just the team
Mm,
was just everything was working for them, and like that's why even guys like Zach Berger, they weren't shooting out the lights, but just doing their job,
mm.
and but yeah,
Yeah, there's no Guijos there. You see how the Stormers are busy singing. Sazi Sandy's busy leading the the Guijos singing nice songs. There's nothing like that at the Bulls. That is work. They go to
Yeah,
work, they get the
they had
job done,
work.
and that's it.
And so Jill Peterson was at work as well, on
Mm.
Saturday. He showed no, he's at work. He can still, for this game, this type of opposition, they needed him to do, he did. I think everybody, they came to work and they got the job done. That's what the Bulls did.
Yeah, let's move on. Sharks versus Leinster. Leinster coming with a no-name brand. You know the a pick and pay no-name brand team.
Yeah,
Leinster guys that I mean,
yeah.
there's a few of them that we know, but for the most part, it's you know when you play
Mm,
PlayStation and they don't have the player's picture, it's just a generic
yeah.
guy. It's just a guy. They just came with a bunch of guys. They came with a bunch of guys, and obviously they're gonna have that pattern play. These guys,
Yes.
it's very structured. So it was always gonna,
Identity.
you knew what was gonna come.
Identity.
It was just whether the Sharks were gonna step up. I thought they were gonna step up, especially a week before, 1 point win. Now you have to look in the mirror and say, okay, guys, are
Yeah.
we? And you know how the Sharks is week to week to week to week. One
Yeah.
week it's a tragedy, the next week it's a celebration.
Mm.
We're used to that. So we
Yeah.
thought it was gonna be a celebration this week. Now other people are celebrating jumping in pools
Hey, my man, they're jumping in your pool at your house.
at
You
your
know what I mean?
house. They come,
At
they
your
eat your
house.
food, they jump in the pool.
They drink your beer. You know what I mean?
He
And
didn't
they
even
jump
take
in
his
your,
shoes off. He jumped in with his shoes.
you know. For me, it's this, like we spoke about Leinster. You knew what was, they're gonna come with their pattern play.
Yeah.
because it's that identity. They had a
Mm.
plan for the Sharks. The Sharks didn't have a plan for Leinster. Brute force is not going to work, you know, against a team where there's a defensive uh, coach that puts in
Yeah.
world standard defensive systems. That back to back World Cup winning defense. You understand, and you don't have a plan. There was no you couldn't see that, okay, this is how they're trying to manipulate the Leinster defense. It was just about, okay, no, brute force. Yeah, you're going to
Yeah.
need your carries, yes, but you're going to need something different as well. And again, for me, game drivers, non existent for the most part, yeah, because the score was 0-0. You thought it looked, I won't lie to you. I didn't even watch the first half of that game. I was watching North South. I was watching North South. That was more exciting for me,
Yeah.
I started tuning in later on in the second half, but in the first half, I mean, and still, there was just no direction from the Sharks for me, and
Yeah.
I'm not gonna the effort. Yes, the effort is always gonna be there. You can see the guys. They trying to do whatever it is that they're trying to do. They're trying, but it's not
Yeah.
working. You know what I mean? And because it's not working for me, I look and I think to myself, it's gotta go back to the top. Director of rugby, head coach, all the coaches. What are we doing? What are we
Yeah.
doing?
I agree.
Yeah,
I agree largely. Jaden Hendrickson, he got caught there with the yellow. He normally gets that kind of thing away. He normally gets those
yeah.
sneaky little, but he got caught and he got found out, like the Sharks got caught and found out.
I
The thing,
yeah,
the thing is, Jaden Hendrickson, his form has dipped a bit.
yeah. It
He's,
has.
it's not clever enough. There's not enough direction.
Mm,
Jordan Hendrickson also, it's not clever enough. There's not enough direction. He's doing things that are very, you can read it. They know what's gonna come. So it's just not happening for them at the moment. And you look at it, and it's like I said, it's always that circle of Masuku plays one bad game, you bring in Hendrickson, you think he's the answer, then you go back to Masuku and you realize that he's the
yeah,
best 10 that you have.
yeah.
So you're gonna continue in that cycle. And Hendrickson, I
Mm.
don't know, even with him, I don't know what his best position is. To me, he looked more comfortable at 12 and 15. But then
Yeah,
you've
for me
got
as
you've got
well.
other 12s and you've got other 15s.
Yeah.
So
But I mean, like even in this game, you could have played him at 15, put Masuku on at 10. You know what I mean? Yes,
yeah,
Masuku was coming off back from an injury, but if you have a plan, you can do that, Because look, I'm not dogging Penguin. Penguin works hard, yes, but he's not a
yeah,
15. He's really
yeah,
not. He's a finisher, You put him on the wing, give him space, give him the ball. He can finish running in a straight line, doesn't have a step. But he works hard for the team. And he doesn't pick himself at the end
Yeah.
of the day. None of those guys pick themselves. So
Unlucky
that's
with
why
the
I say,
drop pass, he was unlucky with the
yeah,
drop pass. I would have wanted to
yeah.
see him have his moment of glory because the fan base, they like to to get on that guy's
Look,
case.
yeah, they do, like, and that's why I say for me, it's he works hard for the team, no
Yeah.
doubt. But he's got his own limitations, and the best of him, we've seen it a few weeks back. He works hard off the ball, yes, better on the wing. When he's having a good day,
Mm.
he's good under the high ball. But as a 15, not really, because he doesn't even give you that kicking option that that relief from the
That was
back.
another thing. That was
You
another
know,
thing. The kicks is from Hendrickson. The kicks weren't contestable.
Mm,
That and I feel like that's a big part of Masuku's game is that he puts those kicks in areas where he'll split
yeah,
the wing and the fullback,
yeah.
and it causes confusion, and then your pressure can result from something.
Mm.
Hendrickson's kicks, they're too deep. The guy catch and
Too
then he
deep.
can play. So it's
Yeah,
number one, you can't contest there. He's not putting them in the corners. He's not kicking with territory. So it's like, how are you going to advance up the field? Like you said,
that's why I say the game drivers.
the pick and goes is not going to advance you beyond the field. You're not doing
Yeah,
anything that's tricky. That's gonna break the line with a step or something like that. So it's like there's nothing that's advancing them up the
there's no
field.
creativity. There's nothing there,
But you know what
because
the
you
thing?
rely
But
on
the
him.
thing that works, you know what the thing that works is they went back to set piece, maul, try.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
you've got to
But
identify
that
and
was
you've
too
got to
late.
go back. You've got to change the game plan and say, okay, let's try and get more
Mm,
of that going than hands
yeah,
and trying to do something because clearly
yeah,
it's not going to work today.
yeah. And let's use it, and that's the base. Just say, okay, this is our base.
Yeah,
And ever this is plan A in dark days. Especially when you've got your block guys there. Okay, you're scramming, you line up to say, okay, you
yeah.
know, let's this these have got to be our weapons, especially in recent weeks where their line out has been better. You've got to give them that. But like I said last week, they fix things. The certain areas that get fixed. Then there's something else where it's like, yeah, okay, you
This is
know,
also my thing is that the Sharks, like a season ago, they used to me watching from the outside, they used to be so good at that. Of it's like from the beginning, yeah, we're gonna try, we're gonna be doing passes behind this guy's back, we're gonna be
mm,
running, we're gonna be playing with forwards in the midfield, we're doing all of these things. But if it doesn't work, we're just gonna go back to that hard stuff. We're
yeah,
gonna go back to basics where it's no longer entertaining, but like now we are getting somewhere.
yeah.
And they used
We're
to be
getting
able to
some
flip
in,
that switch.
and it's about the result. And as much as yes, I'm putting it at the management's feet. It's also
Yeah.
you've got your senior players in there that need to be able to read the game and say, okay, look, guys, let's do this. Let's go back. You've got your
Even
Springbok captain in
okay,
now.
also this the senior player thing. Plum was saying he was looking for polls, and Sia's the
Yeah.
one that said line. I
But for me, it looked
also
like Sia was looking for posts initially. When I watched it again. It looked at first he looked like he was going for posts. And then I don't know somebody else, and it changed. I don't know. Uh, but
I don't
that's
even as a coach I don't like when they do that because even if I had said polls I would lie and say yeah no we said let's go just
yeah.
to you don't want it to look like you and the
Back your
player you
boys.
yeah
Back your
back your
boys.
boys
Say, yeah, look, die by the sword. Say, yeah, look, we're a
yeah
team, we want to play with the ball. And, we thought that we could, after scoring a more try, we thought that we could do it again and win the
yeah.
game, because definitely, maybe whoever made that call, that's what they were thinking. But for me, there just wasn't enough belief. And the guys knew that the scoreline flattered them. To be honest, the scoreline also flattered them because Leinster weren't as accurate, because yes, of course, because it was a no-name brand, sort of team.
Mm,
So the scoreline for me flattered the Sharks. They were wasteful. They didn't create anything, didn't take opportunities. Only then that 55 minute more try, you know.
yeah.
But
I mean,
again,
they were
it's the
unlucky with
same
Penclair
Lions.
and Hooker. Hooker also got held up there.
Hooker,
So I will say, yes, they did have opportunities that gone another way on another day, but fact of the matter is it didn't, and
They
it's
didn't, it
also
didn't.
the
So
other thing was if you look at Leinster's second try, it was all about fast ball. Where it's like
yeah,
these guys are just not disrupting. They're
at the
not,
breakdown
yeah, they're just not
last week we
disrupting.
picked it up.
And then what happened? Fast ball, you can't adjust fast enough. Bongi's now diving at tacklers
Yeah,
because you can't get there in time.
easy. Wow,
So
easy.
it's
So
also like where's the work on the ground? Where are those
uh,
guys? And I mean Pepsi wasn't there. People like to say that's a weak point of his game, but he wasn't there. So who
uh,
do we blame now?
yeah, you see. So, and that's the thing, and that's why I say it. The players don't select themselves. I
Yeah.
still back the team. I still back the boys, but it's really like I said last week. Tough
Yeah.
decisions, tough calls need to be made if you want to be, contending. And not even just contending. You want to be the premier club with all that financial muscle.
Yeah.
Tough decisions need to be made. And if people gotta go, people gotta go. And
Yeah.
let's make this work. We've got youngsters. You can't keep on relying and say, okay, give Julius the ball, do something. Give Hooker the ball, do something. Because you're gonna get times where, like this weekend with Hooker, where unfortunately this time around, on another day he scores there. But
Mm.
this time around he couldn't, and it's not always gonna. They can't always do it for us. You know what I mean? So the Sharks, it's just frustrating, man.
Yeah.
But there's still games to go. We still back the boys, but yeah, man, they need to. Something needs to happen in there.
Yeah, and I think that's it from the USC. There were no other games. Yeah. There's only
No.
three.
Look, but I understand.
Yeah, Lions
We can talk
away.
about the Lions that second half. That's when they were
Yeah.
awake.
I won't lie, I didn't even watch I didn't watch the second half. I was like, no, yeah. This is also, again, this is a free podcast. You're gonna have to pay me to watch that second half. There's no way.
Yeah.
After what I saw in the first half, I was like, all right, guys, I'm tired now also.
Hey, that's terrible, eh?
Um, yeah, Lions versus Glasgow, they were playing against the wind. I mean, you saw the kickoff that even went backwards.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
again, excuses. You can't be down 42
No,
nil at halftime, man. And then, because then when you get the win, you don't even score a single
you
point.
don't even score.
Yeah, so
Aye.
for me, I mean, it just wasn't good. From the beginning, they were just defending. They started making turnovers. Marius Lowe got a turnover. You've got other, JC Pretoria is always going to make a turnover here and there, but you can't defend forever. And that's the
Yeah,
problem. You can't defend forever. They couldn't exit, and they were trying to exit through nine, through Nico Steyn. I think we've seen the difference between Faf
mm,
Light and Nico Steyn because he couldn't, like, he showed his inexperience. And it
yeah, as well.
wasn't, I'm not gonna be too hard on the guy because how many starts does he even get? He doesn't get many starts.
Yeah,
But you could see
yeah,
the inexperience, poor exits, just defending all the time. The only positive was the scrums. The scrums were good. Nathan Macbeth used to play for the Lions. For me, I find him a very poor scrummager, and
yeah. He
the Lions
was
had,
even at the Lions. Yeah,
yeah, Lions had ascendancy there. But that's like the only strong point in the whole game. Everything
mm,
else, Glasgow just have possession, and then they're just gonna play and play and play until they find a mismatch. Then two of
yeah,
those tries, they just found forwards. They just found back finding a forward. Eventually, you're gonna find that if you just have the ball all the time.
yeah. And that's one thing that you gotta like about the way Glasgow plays. They look after the ball well. They recycle the ball well. They promote it,
Yeah.
especially even in contact. Promoting the ball, even at their breakdowns. And once they get in behind you, and they just start pushing that ball.
Mm.
They look the Lions ended up, they were just chasing shadows. Especially when they started moving them around. It was too much. And for me, it was more like, you can't go to Glasgow. Glasgow are a quality team. They
Yeah.
like to attack. You can't go there and expect that, okay, we're gonna try and keep them out, and just defend, and yes, you can have that plan, and then your defense is not connected. Guys are not, because that's what it was for me. It wasn't like they weren't connected. They weren't together.
Yeah.
they got broken down systematically, and that's what you got to appreciate about the Glasgow play. Is just how they go about it. You can see they've got an exact plan on how they play the running lines that they have. Guys,
Yeah,
arcing runs. Running it at weak shoulders because there's weak inside shoulder defense. That they were just every time where they were finding those gaps. And once they got through that first line, it was tickets, man. But look, better second half obviously must have been a hair dryer treatment, from not leaking points, but then be very concerned
yeah.
for Lions team not being able to score points. I think that's now, but
Yeah,
at the same
there's
time,
it's a
it was
struggle.
just
It's a
a crappy
yeah,
game for them.
it's a struggle, especially like I said, creativity. Lombard is not a creative 10. In the
Yeah,
midfield, you kind of don't have creative guys there. It's what are you gonna do? Like I said, the halfback,
you got who you got,
especially
eh?
nine, can't progress the ball. It's gonna be a struggle. And that's the I think though as the weeks go, we're just seeing the limitations of this team. At home, it's fine. At home, they're always gonna manage
Yeah,
to do something,
yeah,
gonna manage to do something, but it's just I think we really saw the worst of the team, but hey, a lot of work to do. A lot of work to do. It seems like again another building error, but we'll see. They
yeah.
always they
It's
always
just
come up with something. They always come up with something in the end. So
They do, but what's just frustrating about the Lions is that I think they missed the opportunity over the past 2 seasons to be
yeah.
like now, to be where the Sharks are now, and that's via keeping certain players, but selection. You would have thought that this is where the Lions would be. Yeah, I understand ballers on the budget, whatever, but we can't keep
Hey, I
on
hate
using that
that.
excuse for so long,
There's nothing I hate
you
more
know,
in this life than that name. It is
you
so
know.
patronized. The ball is on a budget.
Yeah,
I I
it
I
can't be.
I don't like
It
that
should,
name.
it's not even, and that's what I'm saying is that by now, for me, you'd have thought that the Lions would be, at that point. But look, like you say, they can always pull
Yeah,
something out, and you gotta, you got who you got, and we understand, so, you know, they can do better. They'll be better. They'll be better. At least this direction. I feel.
yeah,
This was just yeah. They'll forget about this one very quickly.
yeah. I think we're going
Doesn't get easier though.
into UEFA,
Europa.
the
It's Europa. It's
Europa.
Europa.
Sorry, the Europa.
Yeah, it's
It's
Europa.
Edinburgh Lions. We've got Bulls, Bayonne. We've got was it Leon versus Sharks.
Sharks.
Yeah,
Yeah.
all of our teams away. I think uh I don't see the Sharks winning.
No.
I don't see the Bulls winning because I think they're gonna send a second team. Lions potentially, because they've been overseas and they've had the week that they've had, maybe they'll have that moment where they look at each other and say, guys, let's do something.
Yeah, hey, look, that's what you'd hope for. I think there's a chance for them. Again, Bulls depending on who they send. Sharks,
Yeah,
you never know, because you just don't know the team that's gonna show up, how they feeling
yeah.
on the day. So look, it's hard to call. Don't want to be a betting man this weekend, but definitely, I think a chance for the Lions out of the three. So they have a big chance.
Any closing remarks?
The Sharks are ruining my life, man. Sharks are ruining my life. Management, do better, man. Like, come on,
Yeah,
guys. Let's have a plan. Let's have a plan. That's all.
yeah. For me, it's just now Edwards left. Guys are throwing out names. No, you must replace him with Pengwe. Must replace him with
Juju,
Angelo Davis, Squasan.
Juju,
The names they're throwing out. Who do you think
Juju.
we are?
Right.
Who
I
do you
know, no,
think?
no, no.
We're bad, but we're not that bad. Who do you think we are?
I,
Like,
no, 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 no. There's guys coming through. There's
no
guys coming through
ways.
from the junior system because
No,
the Lions have got a good structure.
we'll find someone. But hey, the names that they're throwing out are honestly hilarious. But
Yeah,
but anyway,
man.
thanks for watching, guys. Thanks for listening.
Yeah, yeah.